First, I want to say thank you for spending your Monday morning with us. It's a real pleasure for me to be here in Dublin today. It was 31 years ago in 1985 that Microsoft got its start here in Ireland. We were one of the first technology companies, as you may know, to recognize that by coming to Ireland, we could not only plant our flag in a place with great talent, but we could work with people here to serve all of Europe. Little did we know that when we made that investment to put our first big data center here in Dublin, we would also eventually become involved in an issue that brings us back here this week and today to launch a new conversation. Little did we know that this data center in Ireland would lead to litigation that would involve a case we filed against our own government, litigation that would be followed by many people across Europe and around the world. Little did we imagine that when we started that case, it would wind its way through the courts, literally taking us years. But little did we know that if we persisted, we would find, as we did this past July, that we would actually win a case that, as Fortune magazine said, created not just only a good week for Microsoft, but a great one for the cloud. We brought that case because we thought it involved an important principle. We brought that case because we thought it was important to establish that no government, through its own unilateral legal process, can reach into other people's email located in other parts of the world. We brought that case because we thought it was important to stand up for people globally. And that, in many ways, is what we wanted to talk about throughout Europe this week. As a company, we look at where technology is going, and we believe that we're, in fact, at the dawn of a new industrial revolution. And that's why we think it's important, before this just continues to go forward at such a rapid pace, to ask ourselves, how do we ensure that this cloud not only serves the fortunate few, but actually serves the world as a whole? That's what led us to put together our best ideas and share it in a book that we're publishing today. We do this not with a sense that we have all the answers, because we know that we do not. No one has all the answers, but we think that there's certain tenets that will all be served well if we can recognize together. The first is that, as promising as all these technologies are, the reality is that with opportunity comes challenges. There are challenges that we see in the world today that are linked to globalization, and they're also linked to technology. Technology is creating new jobs, but automation can challenge and even replace some traditional jobs. There are new challenges to privacy rights. There are new questions about income inequality. There are new opportunities, but also challenges for people with disabilities. If we don't acknowledge explicitly at the outset that this new era creates both opportunity and challenge, the truth is we'll do less than what we should to make the most of the promise that lies ahead. We, in short, need to ensure that we move technology forward without leaving people behind. And that requires that we accept a sense of shared responsibility. Those of us who work in the tech sector, those of us who work in the private sector, have an important role and responsibility, as do people across civil society, as do governments around the world. If we're going to come together and do what it takes to make the most of this new era, we need to appreciate what we each can contribute, but we need to work together with some clear goals. From our perspective as a company, we see three sets of goals that I'll talk a little bit about today. In the book that we published, we've outlined 78 policy recommendations, and the really good news for all of you is I am not going to read all of them to you this morning. It starts with ensuring that this new era of cloud technology relies on a trusted cloud. As a company, Satya articulated our principles about a year ago. as he said that we need to focus on security, on privacy, on transparency, and building a cloud that ensures that people can rely on us to secure their compliance with law. It's about ensuring that the kinds of traditional protections that we've all had, not just for years, but for centuries, for information that is stored on paper, actually persists when we move our information to the cloud. To make that effective, we need to do several things societally and with governments. We need to keep information secure. We need technology that keeps information secure. We need government policy that keeps information secure. We need to address these problems in a way that both acknowledges and ensures that data can move across borders. And there are few places in the world where the global nature of this technology is more apparent than here in Ireland, when you see a company like Microsoft using our data center not only to serve the people of Ireland, but to serve the people across Europe and in Africa and in the Middle East. That's why we were so focused as a company on the development of the new privacy shield between Europe and the United States. It's why we were the first company to stand up and say that we would certify that our data centers would comply with the new EU Privacy Shield, and it's why we were the first company to then go do the architectural work to make that certification effective. Trust has really been in the headlines for 3 years now. But as we've thought about the issues, we've concluded that in fact our needs are a lot broader than trust alone. We need to build a cloud that's responsible as well. We need to build a cloud that respects and protects human rights, even amidst the equally important work to protect public safety. It requires new steps that we all take together to protect people online. It requires new steps that we think about the implications of a cloud-based era for the environment and for sustainability. That's why we as a company announced earlier this year new principles that would guide our work as we go forward. We committed ourselves every year to get better when it comes to our use of renewable energy. We committed to be more transparent. We shared with the world that today 44% of the electricity that flows into our data centers comes from renewable energy sources, either solar or wind or hydro. We committed that by 2018, that number will cross the 50% threshold, and early in the next decade, it will cross the 60% threshold, and we will continue to get better and better from there. But we need government policy to focus on this as well. And given the promise of artificial intelligence, this too is an area where laws will need to be modernized. We need laws that promote the use of artificial intelligence, but we need laws that recognize the vital ethical considerations that need to be at the heart of how we societally move AI forward in the future. If we do a good job in this area, it helps actually, I think, create the foundation for the third and perhaps the most important issue as well. You could argue that one of the defining issues of the year 2016 is in fact one of the defining issues of our time. How do we ensure that we can have innovation and economic growth that is genuinely inclusive? If one wants to have a healthy digital economy, one needs to build a learning economy. One needs to start by investing in the skills that the next generation of people will need to succeed. Skills like coding, fields like computer science. But one cannot stop with the next generation. We live in a time when many people of all generations are going to be called upon to learn new skills and sometimes find new jobs and even enter new careers. And we need to think about how technology in the private sector and civil society and government can come together to make that easier for people to pursue. Similarly, we need to ensure that this new technology benefits not only companies that are older and larger, but new companies and smaller businesses as well. We need to ensure that the benefits of technology and economic growth are not confined to people who live in the major metropolitan areas, but that they actually do what they should. They reduce distances and barriers for people who are working in more rural areas. And as we think about inclusion, as we think about the needs of the young and the old, as we think about people in cities and in towns, there's another vital group we need to think about as well. It's people with disabilities. Did you know that there are 1.2 billion people in the world who have some type of disability? There are 300 million people in the world who are visually impaired. There are other people who have other forms of physical disability. There are people who suffer from some kind of cognitive disability. And yet, what is amazing about every one of these people is the incredible potential they have to do great things in their lives. We simply must do our best work. And we need to take new steps to come together with governments to ensure that technology advances the lives of this vital group. Technology can do amazing things. I think it should inspire us to raise our own ambition. I think we should aspire not only to contribute to scientific knowledge, but to find a cure, to create a day when people who are blind can use technology to see in new ways, when people who cannot walk can benefit from technology to stand on their own 2 feet. Fundamentally, as a company, when we think about what this fourth industrial revolution can offer, when we think about the clear goals that come out of creating a cloud that is trusted and responsible and inclusive, we know this. Progress will come not by building higher walls, but by constructing broader bridges. We need to construct the kinds of bridges, not only between nations, but to the future, that will be broad enough for everyone to move forward. Thank you very much.